Next up, we're going to work on odd shapes using one-point linear perspective. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to establish a horizon line approximately halfway up the height of the drawing area. After my horizon line is established, I'm going to put my vanishing point, or a dot, towards the middle of the drawing area. I'm going to quickly draw in the three basic shapes, the heart, the star, and the house shape. I'll start out by drawing the heart. Freehand, I'm going to draw two equally sized circles touching one another. Down the middle of those equally sized circles, I'm going to make a dot and create two curved forms. This will give me a generic heart shape. At this point, I would probably clean up my sketching skills a little bit here using an eraser to create a cleaner looking object. This isn't a perfectly geometrically measured out object, but it does give you a start for a heart. Next, we're going to do a star in the bottom left corner. There's a trick I learned when I was in kindergarten where I would just quickly make it a star shape like that. It's not perfect, but what it does do is establish where I should put the corners or my dots before I apply with my ruler. So I'm going to line my ruler up. Take those dots off in the middle. I don't need those. I'm going to line those dots up with my ruler, and I'm going to connect them like so. As I said before, it won't be a perfect star shape, but it will give you a sense of where the corners are located. Next up, I'm going to draw in the house shape. I'm going to start out by drawing a square. I'm going to do it right on top of the horizon line, making sure my ruler is perpendicular to the bottom edge of my drawing area. You might ask yourself, about how big should the square be? A little bit bigger than an inch is fine. The next step, I'm going to create an X shape by connecting the corners of that square shape I've drawn on the house. Now I'm trying to find a midpoint this time, primarily so I can find the peak of the house shape. I'm going to line my ruler up on that dot. I'm going to draw upward through the top of the square to make another dot right about here. That will establish where the peak of my house shape is going to be. I'm going to connect those corners to that point, and now we have a pretty good house shape. I'm going to go ahead and clean up the lines and remove the information that I no longer need. I'm going to start out by working on the house shape because it's a more traditional linear perspective exercise. I have 1, 2, 3 corners I can connect back to the vanishing point. The other remaining corners would have to be drawn through the house structure. I've done all of the orthogonal lines on the house shape now, but I do need to cut it off so it doesn't operate infinitely off into space. So I'm going to pick the bottom orthogonal line, and I'm going to draw upward past the horizon line until it touches the next orthogonal line. I have a dot, a line, and another dot. I'm going to erase that horizon line right there that I no longer need. Next, you might be wondering, well, how do I find the angle to match here? Well, you're trying to create a parallel line, so I'm going to line my ruler up to the angle of that roof, and then I'm going to carefully slide the ruler left until I touch that new intersecting dot right here. I want to maintain that angle as best I can, so again, I want to line up on the edge of that roof, slide left until it touches the dot, and I will draw in my line. This is the same method you're going to use here in a moment when I'm working with the star. If you take a look at the star, you'll notice the star has multiple corners, 10 to be exact. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to put dots on all those corners, so we'll understand that most of them are going to go back to the vanishing point. I'm going to line my ruler up to each corner and connect them. But just like the house shape, if I have to draw through the star, I don't want to do that, so I stop at any point I might be intersecting with the edges of my star into my vanishing points. Now, missed a line there. All right. So what's the next step, you might be wondering? Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a dot on the top orthogonal line. Let's say right here. I'm going to line my ruler up to the edge of that star. I'm going to slide to the right until I intersect with this dot right here. I will stop, make a dot, a line, and a dot. Same thing on the edge of the star here. I'm going to line my ruler up. I'm going to slide upward until I intersect. Very good. So we've cut it off right here and here. The nice thing about this trick is I've already found out a way to cut it off on the left side of that star as well. We only have to cut off one more spot. And we've already figured out the math of it, or the geometry, if you will. Here's what you do. If you look right here, you can line the ruler up to that angle, skip past this arm of the star. Voila, we've now made our star a three-dimensional object. Next, all we have left to do is the heart. Here's how I suggest doing the heart. We only have really one corner on there, so what I want you to do is I'm going to start with that corner. I'm going to have you draw to the edge of that corner using your ruler. You will then use your ruler and you will rotate it until you touch the outermost edge of the heart. You will connect it with another orthogonal line. All that's left now is the remaining curve. You want to make a line that's parallel to this line right here, right about here. I freehanded it for our example. That'll give the heart some depth. Now, of course, things get more challenging whenever you are drawing a heart below the horizon line. If that were the case, you'd have to find parallel curves for the top humps of the heart as well. But because it's above the horizon line, it's made the process a lot simpler. Now we have our three odd shapes using 1-point perspective.